is Thursday, December 19, 2019. I am Yael Levi, and these are the Cryptosphere stories for today, brought to you by BLOCKTV's reporters. Is the Bitcoin Santa rally finally here? Markets are up after weeks of decline, and a well-known bull says he was expecting it. 2019 saw a swing in crypto crime trends. Hackings are out. Ransomware is in. And later, Venezuela's Maduro says he will airdrop Petro to his citizens for Christmas. But is that what they really want? Starting off with Bitcoin, pardon me, Bitcoin's price spiked 14% in a spectacular 8-hour pump that saw the charts turn green after an almost 10% slide on the week. Now, although there are still 13 days left in 2019, many Bitcoin holders are taking the recent action as evidence that the run-up to the next block reward halving on May 14th, 2020 will promise great returns. Now, one man who is looking beyond the halving is leading investor Tim Draper. We had a chance to speak with him, and he gave us the following long-term Bitcoin price prediction.
It looks like it'll be something like 6 months to a year after the halving that we will cross we will cross 250,000 per Bitcoin. So, yeah, it might be an interesting buying opportunity, and it also. The technical analysis evaluates Bitcoin, and they say it should be in the sort of 7,500 range during this period based on various technical analyses. I don't quite understand all that, but that's what they're saying. I'm just saying that it's pretty likely that we're going to hit 250,000 by end of 2022 or early 2023 based on customer adoption of Bitcoin.
So 2019 is almost over, and it is time for the year of summaries. Time of the year for summaries. Now, our reporter, Yona Hochhauser, identified some of the major trends in the cat and mouse game of crypto crime. Let's have a look.
2019 was the year of the public ransomware attack. Ransomware hit 103 federal, state, and municipal agencies, 759 healthcare providers, and 86 schools and universities. Most famous, the attack on the city of Baltimore that cost them $18 million. According to Kim Grauer of Chainalysis, there was plenty of more crime happening on the blockchain itself.
We've got darknet marketplaces. We've got, the big case that we were recently associated with, which was related to child abuse materials websites. You have sanctioned addresses, terrorist financing addresses.
But according to a new report by cybersecurity firm Kaspersky, attacks on individuals were actually down, with the mining attacks where hackers use a victim's computing power to mine crypto are down 59%. But Kaspersky says in 2019, still 20% of users were victims of at least one malware web attack, thanks to a huge increase in web skimmers. This is malware that tracks info you input onto a web page intended to steal your credit card info. According to Kaspersky, the reason for this shift in focus is that hackers have found it much more profitable to attack a public organization than mere individuals, as they usually have deeper pockets and access to their systems are more critical for day-to-day functioning. What will 2020 bring for crypto crime? Kim thinks she has the answer.
I think next year is going to kind of be the year of thinking about these OTC brokers.
Whatever 2020 may bring, I can give you 2 easy tips. Think before you click the link, and not your keys, not your crypto.
Yona Hochhauser joins us now. Now, Yona, Kim has her idea about 2020, but seriously, when it comes to 2020, what will be, or what do people think will be the crime trends?
Right, so her idea was that it will be this idea of OTC brokers that the governments will crack down on. Now, governments already started to crack down on exchanges for KYC and AML, but seemingly there's this big loophole that criminals are using, which is OTC brokers, which don't fall under the same restrictions. Now, while she is right, and that will continue to be a big issue going into 2020, I do believe that ransomware attacks against public entities will continue to be a big deal because it's just too profitable for hackers.
Yona Hochhauser, thank you for that report. Now, the United States Securities and Exchange Commission has proposed changes to its decades-old definition of a professional or accredited investor in order to allow more Americans to buy shares in private companies. The suggested changes would broaden the definition to include a test of an investor's sophistication level based, and we quote, based on professional knowledge, experience, or certification, according to the agency. We spoke to Bruce Fenton, the CEO of Atlantic Financial, who commented on the proposed changes and its meaning for the crypto community.
These rules have been around for a very long time. They serve as a big bottleneck in the venture world and in the VC, in VC and in tech, fintech, and certainly anything in the Bitcoin and blockchain space, because a lot of the what it enables you to do, if you're under one of these exemptions, you have to be accredited, but you avoid having to fully register as a security, which is very expensive. That's something that should also be improved, by the way. But it's very expensive and time-consuming to become a fully registered security, and it's not even appropriate for a lot of companies. So they do what's called an exemption, and many of the exemptions require you to be accredited. The problem is that creates a big bottleneck, and really, from a fairness standpoint, it's kind of against capitalist and American values of freedom, because it says you're allowed to go to the lottery tickets or the casino and gamble, but you're not allowed to invest in some of the best investments, hedge funds and venture funds that other investors have had. So the SEC has been looking at this for some time. They requested public comment and they requested industry comment some time ago, and this is an important step in that.
As for the Beatles, so this is Christmas, and in Venezuela that means government-issued bonuses to former civil servants. The twist this year is that Maduro plans to use airdrop to hand out the funds in the national crypto Petro. Ron Spitzer's report has all the details.
Earlier this week, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro announced that public work retirees will be deposited half of Petro as a Christmas bonus. Those who wish to receive their bonus, reportedly worth $30 or 1,376,977 bolivars, must register on the platform called Petro app, which is designed to allow users to purchase goods and services from their phones as well as for transfers. Although the government does this every year around the holiday season, this will be the first time bonuses are paid in Petro, and the people are pleased.
The people really appreciate this kind of help in a country when the minimum wage is less than $1 daily.
Maduro has been pushing for the success of his Petro Pet project for a while now, but even still it hasn't grown organically within the Venezuelan economy. A basic issue, that the Petro is complicated to use.
The thing here is that the system is very complicated. There is using more than 10 steps to try to do a Petro transaction.
To do away with the issue, Sunacrypt, the local cryptocurrency regulator, announced that this will now shift to 5 steps.
Ron Spitzer joins us now in studio. So Ron, is this the road to the mass adoption of the Petro in Venezuela?
Oh, the infamous question of the Petro being adopted nationwide.
Yeah.
Again, this is the latest in the series of efforts to push for nationwide adoption, amongst other things. But Maduro is really doing his best with this project of his. Jorge Farias, actually CEO of Crypto Buyer, we got to speak to him to break it down. He's based on the ground there, and he had an interesting thing to say.
The perception of the public is changing slightly in the last days because the government are also making huge steps to try to get more adoption. They are using retail chains, they are using more companies and more shops, and they are telling to the public that it's around in more than 100,000 merchants that is already using Petro as a form of payment.
Thank you, Ron Spitzer, for that report. Now, blockchain and gaming, a match made in heaven or an unnecessary marriage of convenience. Zaki Hennessy is reporting on the latest high-profile wedding of the two that we'll hear where he falls. We'll hear where he falls on the matter.
For years, developers have been dipping their toes in the waters of merging blockchain technology with video games, but until now, larger game developers and publishers have been hesitant to follow suit. In October of 2019, Ubisoft selected 8 blockchain-based startups to join the ranks of its Entrepreneur Lab program. 3 of which are related to blockchain gaming. One of those startups, Planetarium, has announced the launch of the alpha build of its mobile RPG 9 Chronicles, a game which runs entirely on the blockchain rather than using centralized servers. Due to its decentralized nature, the game can never be shut down, nor can the developers force updates on users. In an interview with Decrypt, Planetarium CEO Kijun Seo stated that, quote, "Players have the full freedom to fork and run their own network akin to private servers for online games. This gives an evolutionary option for players. The different game networks are essentially competing among themselves to provide the best lasting experience for players. With players gaining the ability to take Planetarium's game in any direction they wish, the question remains whether game developers should be able to maintain control over their games, or if this step in a crowd-driven direction is the way toward progress."
Zachy Hennessy joins us now in studio. Zachy, I know you don't have very strong opinions about this, but still, what are the two sides of the argument?
So it's an interesting argument, right? On the one hand, there are those who say that giving developers full control of their game makes the most sense.
It's a good thing.
They created the game, they have a vision, we should just trust that vision and allow them to take us where they want us to go. And generally speaking, I'd say I fall into that camp. However, there is a lot to be said about user-generated content in this time in gaming, specifically because we're coming out of a decade that really revolutionized the idea of user-generated content with things like Minecraft. You got the Steam Workshop. There's an upcoming game development platform called Dreams. Not to mention one of the most impactful and influential games of this generation, PUBG, was based off of another game very similarly to what they're saying you can do with this and the idea of forking, etc. So at the end of the day, we're talking about a mobile game. Right. It's not really that big of a deal, so to speak, but I'd love to see how this develops into the larger gaming world.
You know what? As would I. Zachy Hennessy, thank you so much for that report. And yay, it's time for Troll of the Day. And today, it's Bitrefill's John Carvalho with his take on the latest SEC settlement. Yona Hochhauser back with us. Please take it away.
Yes, thank you, Yael. Well, in response to the news that the SEC levied a $250,000 fine against the unregistered Blockchain of Things ICO that raised $13 million, John Carvalho tweeted, "The only difference between a fee and a fine is when you pay. Would love to see a chart on SEC fine ratios on blockchain project raise totals over time. Could be useful info for innovators seeking funding." Now, John is obviously trolling the SEC, saying essentially that all the ICOs are scams. You might as well just make it a fee. So next time you're planning your scam, make sure to include that SEC fee into your budget.
Yona, yeah, wise words. Thank you for that. That was also it for us and Around the Block for today. Thank you for watching Block TV. We'll be back tomorrow.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.